when we talk about film as an art, we always measure it on its reality somehow, more than other arts. I think, and it seems that a lot of people know how movies should be made, and a lot of people, there are a lot of books and a lot of literature about the rules of cinema. Es gibt so bestimmte Regeln, die Filme zu befolgen haben, erzählen zu können. Und ihre Filme bedienen aber keine Regeln, sondern haben so ihre eigenen unbestechlichen Gesetzmäßigkeiten. And my question is, how do you develop your own Spielregeln? I don't know how would we translate this in English. Your own Spielregeln, and how is it in this kind of industry and Filmbranche possible for you to stay true to yourself with your art?
I mean, as I understand what you said, it's true. Just the fact that film means that more or less you have living people in front of a camera. That means, that creates already some special expectations how a film can look like. So, in general, you can say, yes, they should behave like normal people we know. And we should, in a way, believe that what they say has this, unfortunately, there's no better word like reality or that we can believe what they say. But for sure, and everything else already goes in the direction of experimental film or essay film or whatever it then is told. So in my case, as you already said in the beginning, when I was 20, in the beginning of my 20s, I started to work as an actress at theater, so I did this for a long time, for 7 years or something, and then, so I can say that I really know what dramaturgy, what is the English word?
Dramaturgy, probably?
Probably, yeah. What that is. I mean, what does it mean to tell with characters through situations and scenes a story? So I think I know that. And when I started to make films, it was because I saw films and started to see more films than theater. And so the point was that when I changed from theater to film and also from acting to directing, I had the wish to work with natural light. That was the one thing. And I was in the mood to write. So to write dialogues and scenes. And so I started, but in a way I started, I mean, for me it was really kind of a very new beginning. I felt very free. I mean, free again after these years at theater where you are the whole time in an ensemble and you have a contract and directors decide and choose what you will do, with whom you will play, for whom you will play. And then I was already 28 and it was really a new start to say, okay, I can just write and then think what I would do with the camera to show what I wrote. So it came step by step to that kind of language then. And then I saw that it was different to what you expect as usual film language. But it was not the wish to create something different. It was just to develop in a way, to start from a beginning and see, what comes up through writing and directing.
In your films, when I watch them, I see somebody who's really in love with cinema as an art form, because you are working very playful with all the possibilities and questioning them of what cinema is and what cinema can do. Do you remember a moment, or was that a longer time of period when you started after your work in theater with your passion for cinema? Was it something specific, or was it...
There are two films with these questions. When I hear this question, there are really two films which impressed me deeply in terms of that I started to think about what did they do in these films. What did the directors do? The one is Sauf qui peut la vie from Godard, and the other one is L'Argent de Bresson. But to be honest, it sounds stupid, but there was really a moment where I had the idea, with my new interest, still working at theater, to apply at the DFFB, which is the film school in West Berlin. And this was with a Russian film I saw on television when I visited my mother at Christmas. And the film is based on a short story of Chekhov, Die Dame mit dem Hündchen. Can you translate it? The lady with the little dog. And this is a film, I don't know the director, but I could research, with Marcello Mastroianni. And it's told about many years. And when in the end, or almost the end, he's working on a ship, serving the people on the ship, and he meets the woman he loves. This is what I remember, completely unexpectedly, after many years. And you see that woman from back, and you see him, how he sees her. It's a very classical film moment. And then there is that moment where she turns and you see her eyes looking at him. And I thought, okay, this is nice. I think I should apply at the film school. It sounds so stupid, but it was really like that. I thought, but maybe I can learn that, what I'm interested in now. Maybe I should learn it.
It describes also your approach, because the moments you are transferring, you are telling about in cinema, on screen, it's a lot about that, about two people and the space between them.
And it's definitely about mute people, and it's about the movement of in that case, a face, the movement of the body, and it's something you really cannot do in a theater.
Where do you start when you stand before your next project? How does it look like, that moment?
I start with, often it's an image. In case of the film which was just shown Nachmittag, it was a long wish to work with. I mean, it's adapted from The Seagull of Chekhov, and this was a very long story I had before with Chekhov and this piece. It's different, but it's not a concept. It's not a whole story. Also, in this case of The Seagull, I started in a way from the very beginning, and then found out what form I can find. This is for example, only 3 days, but the piece is more than 2 years. So it's different, but it's not, in every case, it's not that I have a kind of round thing which has which closes in the end, and that I then during the writing fulfill something. During writing the script, I find the film.
So do you have a kind of Leitthema or a topic that you have as the beginning of your work, or is it something that you...
No.
So you begin really with a scene or with a picture and then start on working. How did it look like when you started working on Ich war zu Hause, aber I was at home, but...
It was also an image. It was the image of the boy coming back. It was different than you see it now, because I thought it should be summer, and or not it should be summer. I saw it more as an image in summer and with less clothing, but very dirty, but more skin visible, and very wide shot. So all this changed. So now you have a schoolyard and it's autumn. But it's this idea, or this image of a boy coming back. And obviously a boy arriving at school, coming back from somewhere, you don't know from where, but obviously not from home. This was the beginning.
And then you work forwards through the script. You develop a scene, or do you develop a kind of layout? I'm asking those questions because today it's Drehbuchforum Veranstaltung also, and it's very important.
No, I'm not creating a layout. Often I'm writing a story just to come closer to the characters I have in mind. But then when I start with the script, I start again from the beginning, and then it normally develops different than in the story, but in the text I wrote before. But already it helped me to find a bit out, or to find more out about, what other characters will appear. I mean, in this case, it was very simple. If you have a boy and he's a child, more or less, then you will have the family, and you will have then the school, and that means you will have teachers, and so on and so on. So it was quite, simple to go step by step further.
So that means you are developing from the beginning on a script. Yes. You are writing a script, no treatment, no? It's a...
No, it can, this text I write before can be called a treatment, but it's not a treatment in the sense that when I start with the script, I write along this treatment. The treatment is just something before, but it's not, often always. There is a lot of differences between the story of the treatment and then the story of the film.
And you are working alone while you're writing? And do you have dramaturgical support? Or,
no.
Or feedback? Or how does it...
No, but no.
And how long does this kind of process?
It's very different. It depends also on the question how long it takes to finance the film. Because, for example, The Dream Path, it took me many, many years and 3 different producers, and it was really a long way to the shooting. And during that period, which was 6 years or something, I did never really stop working on the script. For sure, there were then some months where I didn't work, but then I started again, and then I was changing again. But for example, I was at home, but I wrote very fast in, 2 or 3 months.
And that was your version that you started financing and working with. When is the moment when you start thinking about the cast, about actors while you're writing? Or
it depends also. As soon as possible, as soon as someone is coming in my mind through writing. It can be very soon when the script is not finished, or, I mean, in the case of actors I already worked with, then it's often it can be very soon. But it's not that the actor is the starting point that I say, okay, I would like to work with. But it can happen that an actor gives me an idea. For example, in The Dream Path, I worked with an actor who is a singer, an opera singer. And yes, working with him gave me the wish to, I started to think about how I would like to work again with him and hear and see him more singing, maybe.
And knowing about actors who are going to play a scene that you are writing, for example, does that inspire you? Is it something that is helpful for the writing process, or is it that is just another thought and the directing thought, not the writing? Or
No. I mean, for sure it's good. I mean, if you know an actor, then but the actor has to play it then. He has to do it. I don't create a character from his behavior or way to move, to speak. No.
And how, when you are rewriting your script, when you are doing the next draft?
Rewriting?
Excuse me, next draft?
Rewriting?
I don't know. In German I would say it probably nächste Fassung. How do you make a plan, or do you do it also like you are writing, like one moment at a time? Or do you develop, okay, now I have this version, this draft of my script, and these are the Baustellen that I want to work on, and then you develop the next draft of your script? Or are you also going the way like from the beginning on and one step at a time?
More from the beginning again. Because, more from the beginning again. But I don't have it's really very different. For I was at home, but there wasn't only one draft.
There was only one draft?
Yeah. But this doesn't mean so much I mean, it really depends on how the script is written, what scenes are there. I mean, for The Dream Path, I had 10 drafts. Because time was going on and, and I changed things.
It's very interesting. One draft wonder. It's really great. And the moment when you say now the script writing process is over, it's done, you're going in direction or production and directing modus. What are the biggest questions you take with you from the script? Like,
where does the money come from is the biggest question.
Like, that's also a very important punct. I wrote it for later on. Now I was thinking about the feeling that you have before you start. Okay, now the writing is over, and sometimes director-writers, as you are, ask themselves, okay, I have some questions regarding what will work and what won't work, or what do I have to take care of while shooting or casting or preparing? How did you feel with your script version before shooting of?
Good.
So you had no big question marks about something. Some parts.
I mean, my scripts are full of question marks. I mean, question marks? I mean, I think what you asked me, this is what I'm thinking about during writing. And maybe it's just the question what you call a first draft. If a scene is not in what way ever solved for me, I don't continue, because then I don't know how the next scene should look. So when I come to the end, then it's not about questions. I mean, there can be questions, for example, right now there's really a singer in the new script I'm working on, and yes, the question is now, what music will we hear? But this is unusual because this I have the first time, so this cannot be. This is not an example which tells something about a general development of writing. It's really when I come to the end of a script, and then I have the feeling this is a script. This is a script I want to shoot. Then the question is, who will play? This is the one question. Who will produce, if it's not already clear? And where does the money comes from?
So that means going into production and financing, you feel very secure with your script, and that's the thing I want to do.
I mean, otherwise, I think this is not so unusual to go in a script in production where you... I think it's important to know what you want to do. Independent from how the script looks in terms of, I mean, my scripts are not stories in that sense, and I never would like to build them, but I think this is clear already, we don't have to talk about that.
So the next step in your creative process is the cast and the casting. You are working with actors also very often so you are probably not making an open casting and searching.
No, that's not true. I mean, there are really very few actors I work several times with. It's Maren, Eggert, and there are some very few others. But no, it's a long, intense process, the cast. I mean, I was at home, but we saw more than 100 children, for example, and the teachers. There are several actors I worked the first time with.
And casting, that means already. Are you working already with your film, with the script, with the scenes that you've written for that movie?
Yes.
And giving them to actors, playing them together, let them play together, or is it more like an Arbeitsprobe?
Yes, I mean, if it's a dialogue, then I invite two actors to make so that they can do it together. I give them the text without preparation, and then they read it.
You give the text not before to learn it by heart, but or different? Is it?
No, sometimes before, but only if they want, because it's not all the time the same. It depends a lot who the person is. And if you have an actor who is known, then he maybe says, I want to read something before, and then I maybe say, but then you don't come. Or I say, okay, then I give you something. It's really very different. And since the Dream Path, I stopped more or less giving whole scripts. And then, for example, there are these two teachers, the teacher, Franz Rogowski, and his girlfriend, Lilith Stangenberg, and I didn't want to give them the script. But Franz, who is he's getting very well known in the last years, and he said, I want to have the script. And Lilith, who is also known now, she said, I don't need it. And so I thought, what to do, and I decided to give Franz a script without any result. So, but only the result that he was content, but...
What are the concerns for giving the script?
Because they think about things which doesn't help them at all to play.
Yes, to stay in the moment and to trust also the big picture that it will be told anyhow. So this is what often happens with actors who are too much into the script reading, that they try to carry the whole story in their scenes. Is it the concern maybe that they will?
I mean, the point is that someone who reads a script wants to do it to be more secure where he's starting to go now when he's with this work. But this is, he just, he does not know anything. It does make, because what is written in the script is just words. And the interesting thing is, how will this be filmed? How will this be done? What will you hear? What will you see? And this, he doesn't read in the script. So it makes much more sense to see a film. And, that's why I don't give them the scripts. Or that only if they are very unhappy when they don't know what is written in the script.
I cannot avoid to look at the audience. That is very nice. And what do you think if we open a little bit the question? Maybe we come back here.
Yes, sure, of course. We can open a discussion anytime. Please join us.
We go back and let's try to take advantage of
there's also one microphone going around. Yes, the first question. Second row. Thank you.
Good evening. I found it very interesting what you said about the way you involve or don't involve your actors by giving them the script or not giving them the script. And that would normally be seen, I guess, as a challenge to the actors to maybe get them out of their comfort zone. I guess other directors may do it that way, only giving out certain bits of information to challenge them and to get them out of the normal mode of working. But I'm curious if it works the other way around as well, because when I see your films, I don't interpret you as being somebody who likes to give up control. That's my personal interpretation. I'm sorry?
I don't like to give up control.
But isn't it also challenging to your mode of working by not involving the actors to the fullest extent and perhaps making them a risk to not having control anymore? I don't know if you know what I'm trying to say, but
say it again.
The way that you only involve your actors to a certain extent, it can be seen as a challenge to the actors, but it could also be a challenge to your mode of working, because by not having the actors completely involved in everything that you have maybe put your mind to, doesn't it pose a certain risk that they will not be able to follow what you're trying to achieve with them?
I don't want senseless discussions. It's very simple. And this maybe sounds, I would like to you to understand that it's not arrogance. I was acting very long. And the advantage with this experience is that the actor has to trust anyway. And when and discussions are completely senseless, it's really helpful if there is an agreement before you make the decision that this work will happen, that you ask, do you want to play that role, and then you decide to do it together. Before that, you find out that you are really very interested in that person. And if I'm interested in that person, that means I'm interested in the way how this person will do the scenes I wrote. And for this doing, it's not at all necessary that this person knows that there is another character who is also a teacher and who has... This is all completely unnecessary. And it's also good to find out whether there is an agreement about the necessities about what is necessary before you start doing something. So, and this all is also connected with the question of time. I always have, but this is less important, but it plays a role that if you start to discuss, and I know these discussions are senseless, they are just to share time and to get someone a bit more calm. This means time is running. It's better to work in that time. Meaning finding out what is a movement, what can he do, how does it look, how does it sound. And this talking, I mean.
Thank you.
Are there any other? Please just hold your hand up if you want to join the discussion. Please, in the first row, there is.
It's very
Excuse
simple.
me, later on the second. I just
a
saw
lot
that.
of rehearsals before. Do you do a lot of rehearsals?
It's very different. I mean, for example, in Nachmittag afternoon, there is a young couple, and they have a very, very long scene, and they both were not very experienced, and I did rehearsals. I did rehearsals at the space where we will shoot, so that it was also sensible for us, means me and the cameraman, the DOP to see, to check how we shoot it. I say check because we had a plan or an idea. We work a lot before the shooting on the way we want to shoot it. Not as finding a concept, which is clear at the beginning, but finding out scene by scene how this film can be shot. So we did rehearsals. Also, in the new film, there's a very long dialogue in the middle of the film. This we rehearsed also but there were 2 meetings where they said the dialogue because they didn't know each other, and I wanted them to meet and to spend some time together. Not talking about psychological developments of dialogue, just say it. But often I rehearsed not at all. I mean, with the children I rehearsed a lot, but this was the casting, to find out to find these children. But for example, the scene with the mother and the children, I don't know who saw the film, there's a scene where the mother gets very angry with the children as she's shouting very loud. This was not rehearsed because it's too much energy which would get lost.
But at this scene you mentioned the children, actors, they knew what is going to happen, or they did not? You just trained them. You had an agreement to go with the flow, whatever happens, or because they were like really completely. They did not. Yeah, it works. They are.
I mean, it was not so difficult. Some of them were interested. What is Hamlet about? So I tried to explain them a bit, but it was clear that this is so far away from them that it was just interest. But what we talked about didn't change anything about the way they did it. I mean, it's good when you can say exactly what you want from them. In terms of, you stand here, your hand is there, you look out of the window. Just to tell them exactly what they shall do, because, I mean, okay, they are 13 years, but they are still in a way children, and they they love to know, they really like to know exactly what I want from them and then do it. This was very nice. I mean, with these children then we found. But it was very clear from the beginning of the casting that we will find them. From the very beginning, there was already early someone who was very beautiful to do it. And then we continued, and then, there were many when it doesn't work, but then, step by step, we found them.
Like, for example, that scene in the kitchen, it's really incredible they did not rehearse it, because it's so strong how it holds. And how do they react to each other?
It's not possible to rehearse it because, I mean, the children, they just knew what they have to do. They have very less text. And for Maren, it was the challenge that she trusts them in the way that she's has not to be afraid that maybe they lose, they forget what they have to say or something. This was difficult. I mean, for Maren, it was really difficult because as an actor, you have to trust the other actor, and for sure, she was afraid that they would not come with what they have to do. But when that was, for example, a moment when I saw that she's kind of she's tense, not because of the scene, but because of being afraid that in her back, things which has to happen to make it possible for her to continue the scene will not happen. Then we talked about it, and I said, if you are afraid, you will not be able to play the scene. But if you play the scene and one of them does not react as you maybe imagined before, then you will continue different. It's just, you have to trust that the situation is there because you create it.
I think that's a very important thing that you mentioned now, because they created it. So it's really, actors create moments, and you also trust them.
Sure, I trust them. And I'm really interested in them. That's why the actors I choose, I'm really interested in them. That's then sometimes a misunderstanding that they want information from me which can make them play the role. And that means just they don't trust themselves. They don't trust themselves as much I trust them. Fact is, when I trust them, they can trust themselves. They don't have to be afraid. And if it works good, the actor knows it. And if he doesn't know, we have a problem. And I try to find out before.
Thank you. We had one question here in the first row. Yeah.
In the beginning, it was mentioned that you also work as a teacher at a film school, and I have two questions in regard to this. First, in the course of teaching, do you also work with the students on their own projects, or is it more a general course of teaching? And the second question is whether this element of teaching, of reflecting, so to say, the mechanisms of cinema, whether this had any influence on your own work.
I mean, what was interesting for me, for sure I'm working on her project. This is what I'm doing. I started teaching in 2012, and I only once in all that years showed a film of mine. And this was in a seminar I did with Uli Köhler, who showed also a film here in the beginning of the festival. What is the title again?
The new
Das
film.
Freiwillige Jahr.
Yeah, Das Freiwillige Jahr.
So, and I know him since, long, and we said we do together a directing seminar. And the first week we said then, okay, we show films. He suggested films, and then we came to the point, okay, shall we show also one of our films? So we did. And this was the only moment where I showed a film of mine. Because why? I don't know. Teaching means for me being interested in the students. They don't have to be interested now really in my films. They are, it's about them, not about me. For sure when I'm teaching, and then I do especially practical directing seminars with alone also, not necessarily with someone else. This was the only time I did it with someone else. For sure, my attitude to acting, to directing appears. I cannot avoid it. But the starting point is always their projects. And how it influences my work, what was really good is, if you do a film, I did 8 films, I think, and I started in the first long fiction in 95, so you see how long it takes to do a film. And it's nice to work on, practically with directing in seminars, just to get it more normal. Because also for me, if I do a film and then I do the next one 2, 3, in that one case with the Dream Past 7 years later, this is not funny. So it's good to stay in touch, and also really to do it practically. For sure I speak also about films, and this is theory, it's just talking. But it's more interesting to work with them, and I make them, it's an art school, as you said. So they go to an art school, not to a film school. That means they don't ask me how do I get a famous television director and with a house and whatever. So they want to make a film. They write their own films. You understand what I mean? It's really about making own films. So yes, I work with them very free. And I decided very early not to invite actors, for example, when we do practical directing seminars, but to make them act by themselves, which is good and nice, because it's good to make the experience. What does it mean if I ask an actor to go there, sit there, say that? It's good that they make the experience, what it means to do something someone told you, and to find out what can be done and what maybe cannot be done.
Directors hide very often. They hide behind the monitor or the lens or the camera. It's really a big step forward to go and to do something practical, and not only to ask others to do that. I think to really good directing school, Ausbildung, it's so important to know how does it feel to expose yourself also in that way.
Yes, I think it's really important. It's also it's good. Also to see. If I ask them for a practical seminar to come with a scene, and then to direct that scene, and then they start to explain what they have written psychologically. But if the scene is good written, this is already there. This is written in the scene. But to tell them what to do, as a director, to tell the actor what to do, not to explain them, listen, your father died 1.5 years ago. You had a hard time. Now you're already over. Now you go in the kitchen and you take a, don't know. But they explain the psychological background, but the actor cannot play the psychological background. I just say that because I know it is like that. I know that there are different acting schools and that there are actors who prepare themselves for months on psychological But I don't work like that. And also, I can see that if you explain an actor the psychological situation, he cannot use it in the moment. In the moment, it's good to tell them something concrete. And then, through the doing, they understand how it feels to move the body in a special way, to do a movement. You cannot do any movement without feeling. It goes from outside to inside. The other way around, many people work from inside to outside, but I work the other way around. And yeah.
There are also not only acting schools, but also filmmaker schools and script labs who preach the psychological approach to the story and script developing. And this is really how a lot of us are somehow conditioned in this industry, so-called. And this approach probably takes more courage from the outside towards inside, because you have really to trust and to try out and to see what does it turn on at the moment.
I mean, more trust in terms, it's more difficult to do something than to say something. If you ask actors to improvise, they first talk.
A lot.
But they could also do something and then react on what they do. I mean, if they are not alone on stage. Yeah. But I'm sure there will be people here who have a different opinion on that.
Yes, please. Show your hand and tell us what you think, or ask, or just join the discussion. Yes, the front row, please, a microphone. Do we have a microphone? Excuse me, the microphone. Thank you.
Ich würde es gerne auf Deutsch stellen. Wo kommt die Motivation her, dann durchzuhalten? Weil es ist ja schon ein sehr steiniger Weg, den du dann gehst, ne? Also um dann die Filme zu produzieren, um sie zu finanzieren, um sie jemandem vorzustellen und sie umsetzen zu können mit dieser sehr eigenen Herangehensweise. Ist jetzt nicht unbedingt
I think it's just interest.
For your own work, for your own image.
Film.
The question was, where does the motivation come from when the road is so full of stones and difficult to manage to finance a movie? To produce a movie? Did I understand
Genau.
that?
Ja, vor allem so ein Durchhaltevermögen zu haben, was weiß ich,
Endurance,
7 Jahre an der Finanzierung zu arbeiten.
7 years of financing a film.
But it's not so unusual. I mean, other people, it's this unsolved problem that film costs money. Still, since digital cameras exist, it still costs money because there is a team. This team has to be paid, and not every idea can be solved with a two-man team without actors, without paid locations, and so on and so on. Film is still expensive. And that means that it needs time to get that money. I mean, I Was at Home, but was really very cheap. It was only, I had 400,000 euro for it. And it was only possible to do it because I produced it by myself. That's why between The Dream Path and I Was at Home, but are only 2 years. But The Dream Path, we shot in England, we shot in Great Britain and in Greece, and it was more expensive. This is something you know. You just know it. And it's not possible to say, yes, but I want that money. If you don't get it, you don't get it. And that means then you wait, and then you see whether you start to work on something new in that period, or that you try to find out to step further with something. It's not so unusual. But I think, yeah.
While financing, when it takes more than 2 years, is it possible for you to start working on something new, to develop and write?
I mean, the script of I Was at Home, But I wrote before I shot The Dream Path. This was then after 6 years or something, I wrote a new script. But then the financing was possible for The Dream Path, so I first shot The Dream Path. And then, after that, all the children I already casted for I Was at Home But were too old, because it was 1.5 years later. And then they were not 13 anymore, but they were 15. And we all know that in that period you change a lot. So I lost the complete children cast, and I started again. But I did not found the main character in that period before The Dream Path. So I didn't lose him because I had not found him.
400,000 euro, talking about production, budgets and financing movies. It's really not a big budget for a fiction movie. It's really like...
It's not a big budget.
Average Austrian fiction movie for cinema, it's budgeted by 2 million euro.
But the Austrians, they have a lot of money.
Yes, they have. Compared to Germany, really, I hope nobody from the funding is here, because we always have to say that, of course, I mean, it's a different kind of market also, and the country is much smaller, so it's really very different. But in Germany, a lot of colleagues are fighting to finance independent movies also. There's a lot of money in television there, but it's a completely different workflow and movies.
Yes.
We also produce great movies by 400,000 euro with a kleine
but this is an
Förderung.
exception.
Yes.
I mean, the problem is also always then, okay, people say, it's not possible. So why do you want more? The film before was 1.5 million euro. This was the most I ever got.
And how is it for you when you produce your own movies?
It's good and okay, and in the period when I do the film, because it happened because it was necessary to do the film. It was the only way, so I agree with it, and everything is okay, and I find the solution. I mean, there are people who, in production-wise, who also then work for me. It's a problem then when the film is finished, but because then I lose from one day to the other complete interest in producing because the film is finished. But as a producer, it's not finished then. And this is really awful. Because then I have to continue to, the whole thing. Finishing the film production-wise, which is something else and takes time.
Post-production and selling the movie and so on.
It's not only selling, it's the whole, it's... If they're producers, you know what I'm talking about, and for the other, it's not interesting. You have to get all that money. I mean, which was promised, you have to get it, and to get it, you have to do things like paper work and many things.
There's one question also in the front row. Yes.
Could you say something about between digital and analog film? The switch.
Yes, I mean I was working very long on analog on film, and also editing on film, and then Marseille was the first film which was then shot on film but edited digital. But then the more time passed, the more difficult it got, because there was less and less understanding for my wish to continue shooting analog. So in the financing, in the calculation, there was no understanding that I calculated film material, for example, because why not to shoot digital? And then in combination with my permanent money problem, I shot then only digital.
And the question was, how does it affect the work?
Yeah, I mean, the point is that the first film I shot digital, I really agreed with it because Ali is a film which we shot on an airport without closing the airport. So it was clear that we will have very, very long shots. And we shot it with 2 cameras. And I myself had no idea how this would really work analog. Because also with a big roll, you have 12 minutes or something, and we had shots. I mean, we put the cameras on, and then we were waiting till the situation with all the people who surrounded the actors was good. This takes sometimes minutes. So this wouldn't have been... So it was a positive effect, because I agreed on it. But then, with the Dream Path, it was just a question of financing. And yeah, I'm still unhappy that I didn't shot it analog. And also the new film.
You would rather do it analog?
Yes. For these 2 films, it was just a question of money. And I was really unhappy. And we did a lot of things in the grading to make the images. The only comfort then is, when I'm very honest, I cannot tell. There are films I cannot tell how they are shot. So I ask myself, why am I so focused? Because sometimes I cannot tell. So, but I mean, every other advantage I have, that I can use more material, doesn't help me. Ali was a really exception with these material use. In the other 2 films, I again have a very, very low Drehverhältnis, relationship between shot money and scene money than in the film, very low again. So, yeah, not so much. There are no advantages.
When you are searching for this build, the picture, the framing, so you are doing very intensive location scouting during the writing, after the writing, and how do you implement the pictures you see and find with your DOP? Do you implement them already in a script, or is it a step afterwards?
It's different. Sometimes when I wrote a scene, I have a space in front of me, and this space sometimes exists because I saw it. Sometimes it doesn't exist. That doesn't mean that I imagine something which then has to be found, and maybe we don't find it. This is a very, very important process, finding the locations, and the DOP is involved in the moment when the script is finished. And yeah, the last film I did with a new DOP. I mean, I worked the first time with another DOP. All the other films I made with the same DOP. And to know each other, we did very intense and long-term location scouting, which was not so problematic because we were both in Berlin, and the film is almost the whole film is shot in Berlin.
And so it's the process happening at the same time, the location scouting and Auflösung, framing, blocking, or do you continue with actors?
The Auflösung, what is the English?
I think
the
it's blocking.
What is it?
I think it's blocking, but
Blocking?
maybe somebody's
Okay.
here from the colleagues, yeah, blocking.
I mean, the question, how many shots are in a scene? What shots are these? distance and so on. Many things are written in the script.
As a picture, as a description of what do you see?
Yes. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean then when we are finding the location that there are no new ideas, but there is already a base which is written in the script. But shouldn't we ask more if there are questions?
Yes, please, there is one question.
Ich würde gerne was sagen. I have to excuse my, I am not able to ask in English. That's the reason why I speak now in German. Als ich das erste Mal einen Film von Ihnen sah, beeindruckte mich am meisten, und nicht am meisten würde ich nicht sagen, aber beeindruckte mich sehr die Pausen in den Dialogen. Also es ist immer oft so, dass bevor jemand spricht, ist eigentlich immer eine Sekunde oft oder 1,5 Sekunden fast Stille und dann erst kommt ein Satz. Und jetzt würde mich interessieren, ob das für Sie besonders wichtig ist, diese eigene Realität zu erschaffen, weil es ist etwas anderes als ein purer Realismus. Ich empfinde es eher als ein purer Realismus. Ich empfinde es mehr als, ich sage mal, poetischen Realismus. Ist das etwas für Sie Wichtiges, dieser poetische Realismus, den ich jetzt so nenne mal, oder ist es ganz eine andere Absicht?
So the question was, between the lines in the movies, there is space and time, and the films are not based on kind of realistic impression, but more on a poetischer Weg. Something that's poetic, a poetic moment. And the question is, are you working with that element on purpose, or how does it develop?
In my eyes, a written dialogue is never realistic. It cannot be. A dialogue is realistic if you write down exactly what you hear. I mean, you take a mic, you record it, and then you write it down. This is then a dialogue which is realistic. It happened. It's impossible. I mean, dialogues who seemed realistic have the aim to seem realistic, but they are never. It's impossible. We speak completely different. We repeat the whole time. Whatever. So in the moment I write a dialogue and I accept that this dialogue is the dialogue I want to direct, I want to do, then I have a rhythm which is also not realistic. It's a system in itself. So in the work, we find out then, when we do it, that there are pauses. Without the pauses, it doesn't make sense. So this, yeah.
Bitte sehr, hier vorne in der ersten Reihe.
Zu den Dialogen habe ich auch nochmal eine Frage. Kommen die von selbst zu Ihnen zu, oder gibt es da ein bestimmtes System, wie Sie Dialoge schreiben? Weil manchmal habe ich das Gefühl, dass Sie in den Dialogen Sachen festhalten, die bei mir zumindest irgendwie ganz schnell verschwinden wieder in meinem Kopf. Dass ich irgendwie was habe, was ich aber nie aussprechen würde, weil es viel zu schnell weg ist. Aber um das wiederzufinden, braucht man ja wahrscheinlich eine bestimmte Technik oder eine Erinnerungsform oder wie auch immer, sowas festzuhalten, um es dann in den Dialog zu packen.
The question is how the dialogue writing process is. Is it more from memory, or how do you come to your dialogues?
For me, the most important thing is that I just start, and that I don't have a name where the dialogue should go. And then the beautiful thing with writing a dialogue is that it's not a statement. It's just it's a dialogue. So if I have two persons, for example, and the first person says something, I can just write it down without knowing what the other one says. the other one then just reacts. So I jump, and I think it's really, and then during writing that, things appear like memories or things I've heard or people I know who said something in a moment I liked. But it's always good if I don't write a dialogue which has then the function to transport something definite. Yes. And this is really a beautiful process. Because someone can say something stupid, then you have another one who says you idiot. So it's nice.
There are also in Ich war zu Hause aber very Alltagsdialogues that transport a lot of little things with really layers beyond it. Like, for example, when she brings the jacket into the laundry store and the woman working there says, I don't know, ich weiß nicht, ob das ganz sauber wird. And at that moment you feel like you don't know what is going to happen, but in the audience you feel, okay, there is something about memory maybe that should go away, but it doesn't. I don't know if I do.
But this is, I mean, okay, what is true is that I really love very banal sentences because they are sometimes so beautiful. I mean, I really like that. But in that situation, this is not at all a banal situation. It just sounds like that because, I mean, her son was gone. She did not know where he was. She's coming back. This jacket, I mean, just try to imagine how long, I mean, for these 5 days or whatever, or let it be 2 days. It's a week there, but only 2 days would be enough that she was searching her son, looking for that yellow jacket. Now she has it back. And in a way, I thought, if she brings it to the laundry, maybe she knows that it will not get clean, but if it would, sometimes the whole thing would be gone. This is just stupid. It's nice to have a stupid idea and to follow it. And then the other thing I really wanted to do is to have a very, very kind opposite. So it's very different. The situation is really very different if the woman who's working there says, but listen, are you crazy? What shall I do with this? Take it home. No, she says, but I'm not sure. She doesn't kill the hope.
No, she's...
And this is nice. And this is not daily.
No, that's at the same time both, somehow. It's both.
Yeah, it's both. Yes, yeah. It's both. It's both.
And there's also a very philosophical part of the dialogue, like a tracking shot talking about art, and the movie, when they go with the bicycle, it's like very all-day setting of a scene on the street, it's daylight and everything, and Astrid talks about her impression of what this film scene she saw, how did she feel it, so it's a completely different level of dialogue or kind of monologue.
Yeah, but we talk in different ways. I mean, there are different situations which produce different dialogue. It's also normal. We cannot be philosophers in a laundry, or we can try. Would be nice, maybe.
Isn't that so nice about how it works? It works together all the way. The question is what beauty for you is? How?
I mean, in very, very different aspects. For example, I was at home, but I think the children are really very beautiful. And I was very motivated to film them and to find out where the camera could be to show these faces. But not everyone sees it like that. But the children, for example, also what I just said, the kindness. I had in that film very often the wish to let people be very kind. And this kindness produces also beauty for me. For example, that the director in that scene you just mentioned does not get angry, but continues listening to her and being interested and trying to find out what she wants to say, although he cannot see the reason why she... So this kindness produces also beauty for me. The animals produce beauty. Oh, is that an answer? I mean, to film a donkey or to film also a dog?
Dogs are kind of repeating motive through your work.
Yes, I have a dog. And since I have this dog, in every film there's a dog. Because this dog is an endless mystery for me, because he doesn't talk to me. No, but I'm serious. I look at him and I'm full of questions. So in every film is a dog since then.
Do we have questions in the audience in the meantime? You are working on a new project?
Yes, I'm working on a new project. It's about a mythos. What is the English word for mythos?
Myth.
The myth of Oedipus.
And you will be filming in Greece?
I want to film in Greece, yes. We did already 2 location scoutings in Greece. We have been 2 weeks there, although we have no financing right now.
And in this book, in this beautiful book, there is also a part you wrote. Is it kind of from the new movie already?
No. I wrote it quite long ago. The child has an iPod and not an iPhone.
Okay.
And no. But I wrote it. I mean, sometimes I write and then I continue thinking of a script and often not. And this is a story I did not continue.
Alles klar, dann würde ich...
Thank you.
Da ist noch eine Frage.
Da ist
eine
eine
letzte.
Frage?
Haben wir noch? Geht sich das noch?
I have a specific
Bitte sehr, in der
question.
letzten Reihe. Bitte schön. Da rechts. Entschuldigung, ich sehe es jetzt erst. Bitte.
I want to know about one scene in Ich war zu Hause, aber where the mother is dancing with her children in the hospital, and for me it felt like the only moment when she's really connected with her children or happy with her children. And I would like to know how this scene appeared, and like, was it there from the beginning? Was it a changing?
When they dance?
Yes, when they dance together, when they do this choreography. What is the kind of choreography, and do they present it for somebody? And also, maybe is music, or what is the meaning of the music also in that moment?
I mean, they dance in front of a bed. And it's a hospital, obviously. And whether she's happy, I have no idea. But they do something together, which is a dance. So I had the wish to let them dance in front of the bed. That's all. Meaning, I think it's nice when you see it in that moment. That's all.
So Angela Schanelec, thank you very much. Good luck with your
Thank you for
project.
your
Enjoy
questions.
Biennale the next week. And thank you very much for taking part in discussion. Thank you.